Hi, I'm Ethan Green from NoSleeplessNights.com, and in this video I'm going to be doing a review of the Drowsie pillow speaker. And so far I've been quite impressed with how it works, particularly the fact that it works via Bluetooth, and it's the only pillow speaker I've tried in the last couple of years that allows you to listen to it without a cable in bed, so that's a great thing. The main benefit of pillow speakers in general is that they allow you to listen to music, radio, podcasts, whatever it might be, in bed without disturbing a partner, but also to be able to lie on your side listening to your music where normal headphones might not allow you to do that comfortably, particularly if you've got big headphones or quite sensitive ears. So without further ado, let's pop over to the table and take a closer look. Okay, so these are the pieces that arrived when I got the Drowsie. It came in this very simple Ziploc bag. There's no shrink wrap or excess packaging, and the bag can be reused, so for the environmentally conscious, it could be much worse. As for the charging cable that is included, it's a micro USB cable, and it really is micro USB, micro itself. It could have done with being a bit longer, I think, but it does its job. To actually charge it, there's a pouch on the back here, and inside there is the charging point, which is quite fiddly. You have to really kind of get it in there, get your fingers in there, and then you've got the point to connect it to. It takes about 2 hours to charge, and then it will last for about 10 hours, which is a good amount of time. I think you can get a whole night's use out of it, a very long night's use, or a couple of nights if you're going to be listening to it with a timer. The instructions are very clear, just a few different points to bear in mind, and nice and easy to understand. So to turn it on, you've got the main button here, and there's a control unit buried deep inside this fabric here. It's very well padded, so it's nice that you can put it underneath your pillow and it's not going to feel too unnecessarily lumpy in different places. You've just got this long flat piece. So to turn it on, you're going to hear something which some people don't like, but I'm not too bothered by myself. Power on. There you go, a little voice telling you power on. Connected. And connected. I've already connected it to my phone to save some time. So let's talk about the actual fabric and the pillow speaker itself. It's very soft and quite well padded, and I like the fact that it's got 3 different speakers. It's got 3 little round speakers there. However, one thing that I will say is that it's stitched all the way around and there's no way to take those speakers out. And that has 2 repercussions. One is the fact that you can't actually see what they are without destroying it or undoing all the stitching, which I'm not going to do in this review. And secondly, you can't wash it. And that means that you can't really have it underneath your ear directly if that's what you're thinking of doing for weeks or months on end. Well, you can if you want, and you'd have to spot clean it or use wipes, as they say. But for me personally, I would have liked it if you can remove the components and wash the exterior. However, I do like the way that it's very nicely stitched for the stitching that they have done, and it's just a nice all-round look to it with no fraying of the stitching, which is always a worrying sign. So far, so good. So let's have a listen to, first of all, a podcast and then some music. So what have I got here? A BBC Earth podcast.
Between life and its environment. Over the last several decades, scientists have been going out on oceanographic cruises that would sail into the middle of the ocean, and these ships have the capability to lower a drill down to the seafloor throughout kind of kilometers deep oceans, and then drill deep into this sediment.
There you go. And I like the fact that you can hear it really clearly. Actually, the first time I turned it on, I wasn't sure whether the voice was coming from my phone directly and it wasn't connected, or whether it was coming from the pillow speaker, and that's a good sign. And the fact that you can listen to it clearly means that there's a good chance that you can hear it through your pillow, which you can, and I'll be talking about later. So now let's have a listen to some music. There you go. So a couple of things to say about that. Firstly, the maximum volume, which it's set at the moment, is pretty good for a pillow speaker. I've definitely heard those which are much quieter, 1 or 2 which are a touch louder, perhaps like the Sangean, but generally I think that it's a very good volume for a pillow speaker, and I like the fact that you can hear it clearly, particularly the treble and the higher frequencies. However, one thing that I will say, which is typical of all pillow speakers, let's be honest, there isn't much bass. In fact, there really isn't any bass at all, I think, with this one, and that's a bit of a shame. And if you're an audio expert and you're wondering what I'm recording on, I'm using a Rode lav mic and a Samsung S10. So going back to the instructions, another thing that I found on here that I've really liked and that I've used a couple of times now is the fact that you can, in the section underneath tips, you can save battery life by double clicking the left button to set Drowsie to turn off automatically after 1 hour. And that means that it has an auto off timer. You can double click it again to set it to turn off after 2 hours, and you can double click it again to set it to play all night. And I think that's really fantastic that it has auto off timers. It's the first pillow speaker that I've tried that does have auto off timers, and I just think that that's great for a couple of reasons. One is that it's always nice to not have your music playing all night, but listen for an hour and then have it turn off. It just saves power. And the fact that you don't have to charge it every day, then you can get 3 or 4 days use out of it. That just means that you're less likely to be forgetting to charge it every day and that you'll get a few days. And I like that a lot about this device. So next I'm going to go through to the bedroom and talk about placement and where you can put it in the bedroom underneath the pillow or on top of the pillow. Before I do, let me put one more bit of music on so you can have a listen to just something different. Okay, so here we are in the bedroom, as you can probably tell, and there's a few different things I wanted to cover in the bedroom with the pillow speaker. For me, there's three main things to consider. Firstly is where you can place it. Secondly is if you can hear it through a pillow and what kind of pillow. And thirdly, if anyone's sleeping next to you, can they hear it as well when they probably don't want to? So first of all, for me, I think the most important thing with this one being a Bluetooth speaker is that you can place it wherever you like in the bed, which is great because most of the others that I've tried, well, all the others that I've tried, have a cable which needs to be connected to your audio device. So you've always got to worry about where the cable is and whether you're going to yank it out in the night or if it's going to get wrapped around you. So with this one being Bluetooth and having no wire, I think that's a really flexible option that I personally really like. Now, when it comes to placement, you can put it on top of the pillow, next to the pillow, under the pillow. You've got lots of different options to play around with. Personally, I wouldn't put it directly under your ear, even though it's very flat and soft and padded, and you can do in theory. The fact that you can't wash it is a concern for me. However, having it next to your ear, as I've got it at the moment, is actually quite pleasant to listen to. Now, when it comes to putting it underneath your pillow, I've tested it with different densities of pillows and you can hear it, but obviously it depends on your own hearing and what you're listening to and what particular pillow you've got. But I found that it can hear it no problem through most pillows, even with two pillows like this one at the moment. Having said that, with very dense pillows and double pillow like this one, I found that I can hear it much clearer when I'm on my side, as you would expect, than if I'm lying on my back like this when it's underneath the pillow. Now, when it comes to the person sleeping next to you, I found that if you got worries about them listening to your bassy music, then you don't need to worry about that because it doesn't really have much bass. But what you can hear if you're sleeping next to someone using this one is some of the treble, some of the higher frequency noises, because it is a bit more high pitched in terms of the sound that it's pumping out. Well, pumping is a bit of an exaggeration, some of the sound that it's producing. So I think that's something to bear in mind. You might want to do some negotiating with someone sleeping next to you to find the right volume setting. But probably if you just stick it underneath your pillow and you lie on your side directly over it so you've got your weight on it, then it's going to help to reduce the sound that they hear. But I do find that you need to keep the volume down, particularly if you've got music with more high frequency sounds in it. So for me, on balance, I think this is actually a really good pillow speaker to use in the bedroom. I really like the fact that it's so flexible in terms of the placement and the sound quality is clear when it comes to listening to music and also radio and podcasts. I can hear people talking through the pillow, which is what I really want from it. And the person next to me can not listen to it if they don't want to, as long as I play around with the volume in a way that's convenient for them as well. So overall, it gets a thumbs up for use in the bedroom. Okay, now let's wrap up with some pros and cons of the Drowsie. For me, the main pro is one that applies to all pillow speakers, which is the fact that you can listen to your music or your radio, podcast in bed without headphones in, and in this case, without a cable connecting either, because it works via Bluetooth, which is probably in some ways the best thing about this one compared to the other pillow speakers that I've tested. The fact that you can use it via Bluetooth. I like the fact that it's flat as well. It's probably one of the flattest pillow speakers that I've tried. Some of them tend to be slightly bulkier than this one, so it's good that you can put it under your pillow, and if you've got a relatively thin pillow, it's not going to create too many lumps and bumps underneath it. It's good that it's got a couple of controls on the device as well, so once you locate them, you can change the volume and change the track choice as well without needing to get your device from your nightstand and turn it on and have the light flashing in your face. And I do like the fact that it's got a timer as well. It's very unusual for a pillow speaker. So it's good that this one does have the option of a 1 hour or 2 hour timer or continuous play if you like. As for the battery life, I do like the fact that it's got a 10-hour battery life and takes about 2 hours to charge it. So if you're going to listen to it all night, then perhaps you'll only get 1.5 nights out of it. But if you're going to use the timers of 1 or 2 hours, then you can get several nights out of it. So that's a good thing. It just means a little bit less time fiddling around with the charging cable and actually remembering to charge it. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of the Drowsie. For me, the number one thing is that it's the most expensive pillow speaker that I've seen. Does it warrant that price? Well, I think that comes down to whether you really value the Bluetooth functionality. If you don't and you're happy having a cable connecting to your audio device, then really you can get one for quite a bit cheaper. Another key downside to consider is the fact that you can't take out the speakers and then wash the fabric part. They say that you can spot clean it and wipe it, but really I think if you've got something that's fabric and you perhaps want to have it underneath your ear rather than underneath your pillow, or even underneath your pillow, over time, if it's going to last the test of time, you're probably going to want to wash it at some point. So really I think it would have been better if they'd made it in a way that you can remove the internal components and wash it, like a lot of the headband headphones are, for example. Most of those can be removed and washed. Another point to consider is the lack of bass in these pillow speakers. They all have a lack of bass really because they're just tiny little speakers and they're not designed to be particularly loud. You know, one of the main reasons to have one is that it doesn't disturb people sleeping in your bed next to you. But it is something to keep in mind. If you're used to listening to high-end headphones or even normal headphones these days, or a decent Bluetooth speaker, for example, or stereo, then you are going to be slightly disappointed when you listen to one of these and you've never listened to one before, if you're expecting the same kind of sound quality. But as long as you've got reasonable expectations and you understand why you're listening to it and what it's going to provide, it's not such an issue. And that's it for my review of the Drowsie pillow speaker. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did and you'd like to buy it, then you can find a link in the description below to do so. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep in touch and see future videos. Thanks again. This is Ethan from No Sleepless Nights.